The government is moving under urgency in the House to ban foreign political donations of more than $50. The move was only announced this afternoon, but the government will be looking to hold all three readings of the bill today, meaning it will also skip the select committee stage where the public can give their feedback. Here's political reporter Charlie Dreaver with the details.
Currently, political parties have to publicly report any overseas donation of more than $1,500. But under new rules, all foreign donations of $50 or more will be banned, and party secretaries will need to ensure money over the threshold has come from New Zealand donors. The Minister of Justice, Andrew Little, says there is an increasing risk of foreign influence in New Zealand politics.
The advice that the intelligence agencies gave to the Justice Committee is that, for example, it's not difficult under our laws for a foreign donation to be routed through a New Zealand company and make its way to a political party. That's why we've added in a due diligence requirement on party general secretaries to make sure that any of the donations they receive comply with the law.
The National Party will support the legislation, but they're not happy at the rate it will be passing through the House. They believe the government had a much more cynical motive for the bill being rushed through, to deflect from a poor poll result and allegations surrounding the New Zealand First Foundation. National Party leader Simon Bridges pressed the Prime Minister on the latter during question time.
Will her government's electoral law introduced today deal with the situation where foundations and trusts receive donations which are then provided to political parties for electoral purposes?
Actually, Mr Speaker, the question I got asked on the TOS was whether or not it would deal with the more recent foreign donation example of the National Party. The answer to that is actually that's a bit more complex.
ACT Party leader David Seymour was also critical of the bill.
By making it $50, it's going to be a nightmare for political parties to comply with, because every time you get a $51 donation, you've got to find out where the person lives. On the other hand, if it can't be complied with, if there's no real punishments for complying with it, and there won't be because it's not practical, we've achieved nothing but denuding our democracy by going into urgency, ironically excluding New Zealanders from having input through the Select Committee process.
Otago University law professor Andrew Geddes agreed the bill shouldn't be rushed through under urgency.
It really isn't clear at all to me why this couldn't have at least a very short time in front of a select committee so that New Zealand public could have their say on these changes. I mean, they are New Zealand's electoral laws and they ought to belong to the public. So best practice would be to allow some form of select committee scrutiny.
Andrew Geddes doesn't believe overseas donations are a major threat to New Zealand's political system, so the change hasn't achieved much. But Andrew Little is defending the rate the bill is passing through Parliament.
If it's going to have any meaningful effect, we have to have it in place for the beginning of next year, not partway through next year. If we don't prevent foreign donations as early as possible, then we run the risk that foreign donations will be made and they won't be captured.
Mr Little says today's legislation is just the first step to address the risk of foreign influence. He says the Electoral Act needs a major overhaul, but that work won't be able to start until after next year's election. From Parliament, for Checkpoint, Ko Charlie Dreaver, DNA.